The NHL trade deadline is only days away. With dominoes already starting to fall, there's impact on your fantasy hockey squad and a whole lot of NHL news to be broken down on the Tuesday edition of the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast. Are the Florida Panthers primed to go back to the Cup? Tap in, tune in, and get this paper.
You're Locked On Fantasy Hockey, your daily podcast on fantasy hockey.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back inside the lab, everybody, to your daily 30-minute source for fantasy hockey, NHL news, and daily betting breakdowns. It's the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast, and I'm joined, as always, by my distinguished co-host, Mr. Steele Rodin. On this side of the microphone, it's your boy, Big Flip Livingstone. Shout out to the everydayers holding us down, making us your first listen every single day. We see you, we appreciate you, and we couldn't be doing the pod without y'all. And right now, if you're not a buzzing NHL fan, Steele, I say check your pulse, because there is so much going on and all of it impacts your fantasy squad at some avenue. And Steele and I are going to do our absolute best to make sure you have them all covered. 30 minutes in and out. That's what we do for you guys to try and get you back to your busy lives. Now, Steele, the obvious big news, Seth Jones. We haven't been able to speak about it, but it's almost a treat that we've let this percolate for a couple of days, because now we've got this Spencer Knight situation starting to pop. It's only one game for both of them, but there's lots to talk about. We'll start there. Trent, Frederic, Matthew Tkachuk, Brad Marchand, 5-game Wednesday betting board. We're dropping late all week, so we're looking ahead a little bit with the bets. I think we should reiterate our Tuesday bets. I got mine ready to go just in case there's some listeners out there. Over to you, my friend. Seth Jones, Spencer Knight, what are you seeing here? Fantasy value to be had, I think.
Well, first of all, what a debut for both players, Seth Jones and Spencer Knight, with their new franchises, new organizations. Spencer Knight putting on an incredible performance, 5-1 win over the LA Kings, 42 save night with the win for him. Seth Jones also good on the back end for the Florida Panthers. So for Seth Jones, fantasy value-wise, I really don't think it's possible for a lot of us to go out and acquire him or add him, because he's rostered at 75% or over, depending on which fantasy format or fantasy league you're in, whether Yahoo, ESPN, or Fantrax. So it's nearly impossible to get him. If he is out there, I would strongly advise to go pick him up off the waiver wire, because after what I saw in game one, watching the highlights, he was terrific out there. He was on the penalty kill for all 7 penalty kills for the Florida Panthers, 22 and a half minutes of average ice time, chipping in the peripheral category. So I liked what I saw from Seth Jones. If he's out there, go at him if you need some help on the blue line. Where I really like this deal, and to break down the deal to begin with, the Florida Panthers acquired Seth Jones and a 2026 fourth-round pick. In return, the Chicago Blackhawks get Spencer Knight and a conditional 2026 first-round pick, while also retaining 25% of Seth Jones' salary. I really like the value Chicago gets here, and this is, to me, a really good starting point for getting this team back in the right direction, getting the team to be a contender. You bring in a young goaltender, former first-round draft pick, 13th overall, back in the 2019 NHL entry draft, 23 years old, has the potential to really be a star goaltender in the National Hockey League, has obviously struggled with, has struggled emotionally at times with his confidence, his game in the crease. It's been seen, it's been known, going into the NHLPA program as well. But this kid has a bright future and a lot of talent. If he is put in the right organization and given the time to develop, really grow, find his own spot, I think he has a bright future in the National Hockey League and for our fantasy hockey teams. To me, this is indicative of, there's going to be one man out now, and I really do think Peter Mrazek's trade bait board, his value on the trade bait board will go up, and there will be teams to go after Peter Mrazek, and this will be a Arvid Soderblom and a Spencer Knight duo moving forward for the Chicago Blackhawks. After the performance from him, like I said, 40-plus save, 5-1 win over the Kings, tremendous for him, happy for him, and I think there's a lot of value with him moving forward, along with Soderblom, who's been pretty decent for Chicago this year too.
kind of obvious to be said after such a good performance that, yeah, we
Yeah.
really like this angle. But we said this initially when the trade first happened. You and I haven't had the opportunity to come on here and really give our takes and our fantasy breakdowns here. But this is just a fact. He needed the opportunity to be the number one guy. Is there still going to be growing pains? Is a Soderblom Spencer Knight tandem going to take this team to the promised land right away?
Lots of work to
not.
be done.
Of course, there's still work to be done. However, right now, week to week basis, if you were finger on the pulse, like we've been saying you should be with all of these moves, including Seth Jones, I believe you and I said Florida's the perfect place, and boom, and keep your eye out for opportunities like this with goaltenders who are going to get the lion's share of starts, double boom. So that's what all that needs to be said, I think, about this situation. Other than, for me, like, yes, fantasy-wise, Spencer Knight, I'm liking the angle. If you were one of those people sniffing around Seth Jones and took a shot on him before the trade, like I said, that might be worth a worthwhile angle. You've gotten yourself a nice little fantasy boom as well. However, this is huge for the Florida Panthers, in my opinion, Steele. A team that was already very difficult to play against and a team that can throw a lot of wrinkles at you. And now on the blue line with Seth Jones, I think they have a whole other wrinkle. And I know in his first game he was held off the score sheet, but he looked real good. He's eaten almost 23 minutes of ice time, 2 blocks, a hit, 3 shots on net. I think it's only a matter of time before he starts producing down the stretch here. He's going to eat major minutes on a good team that is at the top of the standings. I don't think this is exactly rocket science here. Get yourself a piece of this trade somehow, some way. If you're ready, I think just very quickly, this Trent Frederic ad could be sneaky depending on where he went. And look, someone even threw shout out to the comment on the YouTube channel about our boy Matty Savoie. Obviously, that didn't stick, but we said when it comes to the Edmonton Oilers, if there's line shuffling and there's somebody getting time with Leon Draisaitl, there's somebody getting time with Connor McDavid, it's an auto must add. So I don't know where Trent Frederic is going to land, Steele, in terms of the lines in Edmonton. However, he's proven that he can score goals. He can mix it up a little bit. I kind of like this move on the ice for the Edmonton Oilers in terms of another player that they can throw out there in their top 9 mix. I don't know where he falls in terms of the lineup. It'll be very interesting. However, if he does catch that second line, or maybe they get, I don't see them breaking up that top line of Nugent Hopkins, McGee's, and Hyman.
No.
However, if he does get thrown in there on that second line or he catches some second power play time, once again, you got to be paying attention to this situation.
Yeah, I mean, I could see him getting tossed in there just to give him a chance with Leon Draisaitl on that second line. But for me, I don't see a ton of fantasy value. I think this solely speaks to the value that he's going to bring for the Oilers in the second or in the latter of this regular season and going into the playoffs. He's one of those guys that plays on the edge, has the physical aspect, can get into the dirty areas, has proven that he can score goals. Obviously, it's been a very difficult season for him, for himself in the offensive zone. Only 8 goals, 15 points, and a minus 14 on the season. But he brings the boom. Loves to lay the big hit out there. And he goes to all the dirty areas and does those dirty things in front of the net, in the corners, and battles for his teammates. So lots of fantasy value for the Oilers specifically moving forward. Fantasy-wise, I really don't see it with Trent Frederic unless he gets put on that second line with Draisaitl.
I'm just pulling up the Oilers' schedule very quickly, Steele, because that's obviously going to start to impact the attractiveness of some of these players. You know, they got the Ducks tonight, then they've got the Canadiens, Stars, Sabres, Devils, and Islanders. A pretty good stretch, actually, for the Edmonton Oilers. So if he does even catch a little bit of a look on a line that you like, considering he can be that guy that kind of loses his mind for 5 or 6 hits and 10 penalty minutes in a night. If he's going to start to catch a little offensive love, those are the angles that are going to take your team over the top. The playoffs are looming. Trade deadline on the horizon, Steele. It's going to be a busy few days, so make sure you're here at your 30-minute daily source for all of it and stay up to date Today's episode is brought to you by our friends at Wonderful Pistachios. If you're looking for a snack that's delicious and nutritious, crack into a good source of protein with Wonderful Pistachios. Wonderful Pistachios is one of the highest protein nuts out there. Each 1 ounce serving has 6 grams of protein, giving you over 10% of your daily value. Plus, they're packed with fiber and better for you unsaturated fats to keep you full longer. The best time of day for me, snacking Steele, at the desk where the no-shell variety is the perfect grab-and-go snack, or on a roadie, or you just need a quick protein boost. Get snacking, get cracking, and the snack packs a protein punch. That's Wonderful Pistachios at wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more. Grab yourself a bag today.
And thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Pod your first listen. Monday through Friday, 7 p.m. is when you can find our episodes for this next week. We will get back to our regularly scheduled episodes, 7 a.m. Monday through Friday. Make sure you share with your friends and family out there. It really does mean the world to Flip and I. Hit that subscribe button, the follow button, leave a 5-star review. Really do appreciate all the love and support we get from the listeners out there. Some big news, which most of fantasy hockey fans will know of as of now. Matthew Tkachuk, he is done for the regular season, could be back for the first or second round of the playoffs.
Yep.
Brad Marchand also out on a week-to-week basis. I want to dive in deep on his future with the Boston Bruins and what this Trent Frederic trade means for him in the next couple of days as well. But let's start with Matthew Tkachuk. Big injury concern. Obviously, after the Four Nations face-off, hasn't been able to be back on ice. He will miss the rest of the regular season for the Florida Panthers. And like I've said, this honestly might be a good time, like we've seen in the past with the Vegas Mark Stone. This might be a good time for some of the stars to get injured. I'm not saying go out there and get injured, but of course gives them some flexibility with the long-term injured reserve. Also gives them flexibility if they had some nagging injuries already to just rest up, take a month or so, and just get fully healthy for the playoffs. As we know, it gets really intense going into the postseason.
And let's be clear, that's us putting a very positive spin on this. This is not a good situation for the Florida Panthers or fantasy hockey owners out there. And trying to replace a guy like Matthew Tkachuk now is going to be one of those almost critical situations. And I understand that Matthew Tkachuk, he's just been, I think, kind of a victim of his own success, and in terms of how much his body has taken the toll of all the games he's played, the style that he's played. And I know realistically over the last couple of seasons, like 82 games, 79 games in the regular season, 80 games, he has been durable. I just think we've seen it affect his overall output. 109 points topping out, down to 88 points, 57 points this season. The hits obviously a little bit down as well, Steele. So I think that's really impacted his offensive and overall fantasy output, which is something that fantasy GMs have had to maneuver this season. To me, there's two things here. This is going to hurt the Florida Panthers. Is it going to knock them out of the standings? No, they're going to be fine. They're going to be a team that is probably, Zito in the front office already making a move for Seth Jones. I don't think he's going to be done just yet. He really didn't take away from his roster at all in terms of their ability to get back to the postseason and make some serious noise. It's win now mode. So I expect Zito to continue to make some noise, especially with his number one guy up front out. There's options out there in the fantasy realm that you could potentially try and augment. I'd throw the Nuchishkins out there in the world. We mentioned Matvei Michkov if you're trying to replace the fantasy offensive value with Tkachuk.
Yeah.
I'll turn it back over to you, because all that I really have to say about this is I'd be looking in-house at some of these options that are going to eat a whole bunch more minutes in the top 6. I mentioned Semiskevich. I mentioned Evan Rodriguez. And I would also perhaps throw in, I know Luosterainen has played with Lundell most of the season, but if he slides up into a second line role, I'm looking in-house because the Panthers are just that good. So some fantasy value to be had there, I think, Steele, with some pieces that are going to eat the minutes. And I think the Florida Panthers will be fine. I don't know what your take is on that.
Yeah, of course they're going to be fine. There's nothing to be worried about, obviously, Paul Maurice. Of course. I mean, obviously, for those who have had Matthew Tkachuk, you've probably already dropped him at this point and gone to the waiver wire again. hit up Monday's episode for waiver wire targets for the upcoming week for those replacements of Matthew Tkachuk and Brad Marchand. I'm not worried at the Florida Panthers by any means. They could still finish first in the Atlantic Division, get Matthew Tkachuk for the postseason, ready to go. That was the point I was going to bring up, was to look in-house at some of those guys, even the third line, and Anton Lundell, Luostarinen, obviously, but you already mentioned all of those guys, and looking at the opportunity that they can do in filling in for Matthew Tkachuk, one of the best forwards for the Florida Panthers and the National Hockey League. Same can be said for Brad Marchand. He is out on a week-to-week basis, injured as well. Boston Bruins just made the trade, of course, with the Oilers to send Trent Frederic to Edmonton.
Yeah.
And after this, I think we can maybe start to see, I don't want to go full in guarantee that they're selling at this point, but with Trent Frederic now being traded from the Boston Bruins, I think this is very indicative of what their mindset is going into the trade deadline over the next couple of days. And with Brad Marchand's name being out there for the last couple of months, will he be traded? Will he be extended with the Bruins? There's a lot looming, a lot of questions in the air right now. And for me, I just don't see it happening. I see him remaining in Boston. There's just players that you really can't imagine wearing another jersey because they've been there for so long. They've been there for their entire career. I just can't see the Boston Bruins trading away their captain, a guy who's been there for over 12 years now.
I agree.
And for me, again, a guy like Brad Marchand, you hate to play against him. You love to play with him, just like a lot of Team Canada players probably felt at the Four Nations face-off. I don't think he gets traded, but it is going to hurt the fantasy hockey if he were to be traded, but also the fact that he's out for the next couple of weeks.
Same kind of options hold true for replacements there. Boone Jenner I'd throw in there as well, Steele. We mentioned a bunch of forwards on the Monday episode that could be nice fill-in. Shane Wright is on a heater right now. If you're looking to try and get that little bit of a replacement, I know Brad Marchand has had his ups and downs this season, still a valuable fantasy piece. I think what we've been predicting, Steele, for 3 seasons now is about to actually finally hold true. We've been predicting
Is it finally happening?
We've been predicting the downfall, maybe preying on it perhaps, of the Boston Bruins, and I think it's here. And look, we've been saying it at length why we think this is the case. It's not just because we're a couple of jaded Toronto Maple Leaf losers over here, which is also true. This team just doesn't have it. And when I look at the lines, maybe it's just me. Who is this guy Merkulov? Cole Koepke? Jeffrey Vial? Mark Kastelik? This is getting really ugly here for the Boston Bruins, and I'm not trying to disrespect guys. I'm just being a little bit off the cuff fantasy-wise. If you weren't already
It's true.
Yeah, if you weren't already jump ship and jettison from the Boston Bruins, and I understand 3-5-2 over their last 10 isn't exactly horrific. But when you look into the numbers, especially offensively, if his name is not David Pastrnak and maybe a couple of streams, like I mentioned, my boy Lowry on the back end looking kind of good.
Geeky as well.
You should be really staying away from this team. So I wanted to just pull that up because it's right here. The Boston Bruins have scored 167 goals this season. That's the 7th least in the NHL, and they're realistically only a couple away from the very bottom. And that's the Islanders, Sharks, Predators, Flames, and Ducks. That means they don't have it. Be very wary of any fantasy pieces. Look, the blue line is the blue line. When Charlie McAvoy's in there, it's actually pretty solid with Swayman holding it down. They don't have any depth up the middle. They don't have any secondary scoring. David Pasternak's been hung out to dry this season. Now Marchand's hurt. I think this team is about to go down and go down quickly. So jump ship on their pieces ASAP.
Couldn't agree more. This is not the same Boston Bruins team from the late 2000s, early 2010s. They are completely different, and you can tell from some of those names we just listed off. Let's get over to big time bets. Lots of good games again on Wednesday night, and of course, maybe some late bets for Tuesday as well. That and more coming up next. Welcome back, and thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Pod your first listen every single day. You're tuning in with your boy Flip Livingstone and Steele Rodin. Thank you so much for all that love and support. Hammer that subscribe button, the follow button, leave a 5-star review. help us to 2,000 subscribers on YouTube. We really do appreciate it. Big time bets where the money is made, where we try to make the extra loot over the week. Of course, like we try to do every Monday through Friday, flip some interesting games again. I have 3 really good picks, ones that I'm confident with, but I want to throw it over to you. Where are you looking first and how you feeling for Wednesday?
First and foremost, this is all I got to say right now to our boy, the hockey Doc Matt, for holding us down on YouTube, always showing us some love. Shout out to everybody on the YouTube channel. You know, Steele and I always try and show the love back to you guys. It means a lot, the feedback. Fantasy hockey, it's a grind. It's a whole season thing. So when it comes down to bets at the end of each episode, yeah, we like to get degenerate. Yeah, we like to sprinkle, but we also like to try and show that love back to you guys. So that's what it's about for me, Steele. I know you said you liked Wednesday's board. That 5-game board for me is a difficult one, and I'll hit you with my first pick quick. I just wanted to reiterate my picks for Tuesday night if anyone's listening to this episode late. I love the Stars on the money line against the Devils. I love the Bolts on the money line against the Blue Jackets, and I really do think that 2-leg lock that I had, Buffalo at home against San Jose on a back-to-back, and the over in the Buffalo Sharks game is going to be a beauty angle to cover. But let's get to tonight quickly and then back over to you. Like I said, I thought it was a tough board. I'm very intrigued to hear who it is that you're looking at. My paper and pen method's letting me down here. First pick, right, that jumped off the board, St. Louis at LA. I'm going to the total here. And when I look head-to-head at St. Louis and LA, in terms of their most recent matchups, their last 3 games, it's been a bit of a mixed bag in terms of over-unders. So that one's not exactly going to make you feel good, but this one will. 5 out of St. Louis's last 7 games have gone over the number, and 8 of LA's last 10 games have gone over the number. I say this one's sitting right around 5.5, 6. Put it at 5.5, and I'm loving the over.
I like the over in this game as well. That's actually where my first pick comes from. It's not the over, but it is the Kings on the money line at home. And I know the Kings are on a 4-game losing streak. They've been on a 4-game road trip as well during that time, and really just poor performances offensively for the LA Kings, losing to the Chicago Blackhawks, losing to the Dallas Stars and the St. Louis Blues. That's a weird thing for me, is that they're playing the St. Louis Blues 3 times in the span of a week. So they're seeing a lot of this Blues team right now. For sure. They're just happy to be back home and play where they love to play, and that's in LA. I'm taking the Kings money line -170 for my first pick. The losing streak will end tonight on Wednesday. Love 2 picks from 2 separate games as well. Second pick, I'm looking at the Rangers on the money line against the Washington Capitals at home, +105 right now. Both teams are playing really well, except the Rangers are actually playing maybe a little bit better. They're 7-3-0 in their last 10, while the Capitals are 5-3-2. They're still winning games, but they falter just a little bit. I think things are really coming into fruition in New York with all the additions they've made over the season. JT Miller's, the chemistry, like I said, Will Cooley, they popped off the other night in that 4-0 win over the
Zibanejad looking good too.
Zibanejad, like I said as well. So I'm really liking the Rangers team, how they're playing, cohesiveness, confidence, Shesterkin, the goaltending, everything's working together right now. I'm going to take the Rangers at home at +105. Get that juicy odd right there for my second pick. Third pick, I'm going to the Ottawa Senators superstar offensively, Stützle, 2+ points. Currently on a 12-game point streak.
Yeah, he's been
18
great.
points in that time. He's been an absolute stud, even with them losing games. And honestly, I have to throw this out there just for Tim Stützle, because we've talked about him in the past. If the Ottawa Senators organization, if they can become a winning culture and a winning franchise,
it's a big if.
I think that's the only reason why Tim Stützle might not be considered a superstar right now. Because they don't have that winning mentality. They don't have that winning culture.
Yeah, it's a bucket town.
It is a bucket town. But if they can start winning some games and becoming a consistent playoff team every single year, there's no question to me Tim Stützle is a superstar. He's putting really good performances over the last 3 seasons. 60, what is it? He has 63 points in 60 games right now, 15.3 shooting percentage. Had to throw that out there. Playing fantastic. Stützle, 2+ points for my third pick. Lock of the night is going to the Kings money line, though.
Look, Ottawa Senators fans is who I have problems with. The city of Ottawa doesn't need to catch
You have
strays.
problems with
So
the
I got to
fans.
show some love to the city because that's not their fault that their team is just one of those ones that absolutely sticks it to ours. However, Steele, Ovechkin into New York. This guy is a big-time player, and on hockey's biggest stages, he performs. He always regularly lights up the Leafs when he comes to Toronto, when he goes into these big-time barns in Boston, into Montreal, and into New York in Madison Square Garden. By the way, I'm itching to get to the Garden. I know you and I haven't had a hockey trip. Why not New York, baby? We got to maybe get that one in the books. However, in his career, 75 career regular season games against the New York Rangers, 45 goals for Alex Ovechkin. I think he stays red hot, and I think it's the stage that has really elevated his play. He's that kind of player. He's a gamer. When the moments mean the most and when the pressure is on, which it is in this goal chase, he thrives. He doesn't welch away. He is in the limelight, and he very much is right now, and no better place where the lights are brighter than New York, and I think he's going to get his tonight. Ovechkin, anytime goal. Lock of the night, though. I think after that very, very suspect performance to end that game over on Monday night for the Toronto Maple Leafs, that they are going to have to clamp down and tighten up in a very big way. Am I ready to take them on the money line in a very tough barn after what I saw? I don't have that much cojones, but I'm going to like the under 6.5 Steele as my lock of the night. Vegas, a very good defensive team. In their last 10, Vegas and Toronto, even 50-50 split. 5 games have stayed under the number. 5 have gone over the number. This one very much for me is a gut pick that just makes sense given what I've seen from both teams and what I know Craig Berube is going to have been in the ear of a number of players after Monday's performance. Under 6.5, I'm feeling very comfortable with that one as my lock of the night.
I gotta say, I'm surprised at this one. You're saying it's a difficult night with all 5 games, and you go to the hardest game here. I know it's the under. That's probably what I would go with as well. Under 6.5 in this matchup. Craig Berube, he's gonna be all over the team. Get better defensively, help the goaltending out. Stolarz was still pretty good in that performance against the San Jose Sharks. But those are the bets for Wednesday night and the locks of the night. We got some player props, we got some over-unders, and we got some money line picks. Make sure you listen and stay tuned in throughout the rest of the week, making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Pod your first listen every single day. For your second listen, make sure you go check out the Locked On NHL podcast, where the season never ends. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. From your boys here on the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Pod, we wish you good luck with your matchups. Good luck with all those bets this week, and we shall see you back here again tomorrow.
Peace.